Hello students. In this video I'll be explaining on the different factors that which influences or that which affects one of the important decisions, that is a working capital decision or working capital requirements. You as a financial manager, when you are planning how your working capital management should be, how you have to cater the needs of on day to day basis, how you have to go ahead with the operations, everything, what are the certain factors that you need to keep in mind. That talks about the factors that which affects the working capital requirements. The first point what you have is nature of a business. What is nature of business? See, nature of business talks about what is the type of the business you are into. Are you into the service sector? Are you into the manufacturing sector? Are you doing any kind of productions? Are you into producing of a product, or are you just dealt with the services? Right, this is going to affect. I'll just connect with the point of working capital. See, the nature of business definitely it is going to affect the working capital requirements of the firm to a great extent. See, for example, like a public utilities, like you have electricity companies, railways, right? They need very little working capital because you know they need not hold the large inventories, and they need not get into the operations, and basically on the cash basis there's no relevance as such. But on the other hand, if you think of any kind of the manufacturing production layouts, the trading firms, of course it requires sufficient the large working capitals, because they are going to invest substantially in the inventories, the stocks, and the account receivables. When you talk about the manufacturing or the trading firms, what is happening on daily basis? You are producing the products on daily basis. You are going to procure or ascertain the raw materials. You are going to put in the labor to work there. You are supposed to pay the wages for them. And do you think that raw materials are adequately available? Definitely no. There's lots of scarcity of resources. What is happening? There is lot of variable cost involved with respect to the manufacturing concern. So always the nature of business is going to play a vital role, and this particular factor is going to impact to a great extent with respect to the working capital requirement. Well, the next point, the factor what we have is the size of the business. What is size of the business? Size, it talks about the capital, and capital, it depends upon your nature of the business, right? So the point 1 and point 2 is interdependent, where the size of the business is actually dependent upon the factor of nature of the business. See, bigger the business, bigger the capital, isn't it? So when you are going to deal with the manufacturing, production, everything, what's going to happen on daily basis? You will have to let go of the amount on raw materials, that this, right? You will have to pay for the labors in form of wages, right? Materials you have to procure, right? And money, how you are going to arrange the funds, how you are going to finance, how you're going to make the financing decision, right? So again, the size of the business in terms of capital, of course it is going to affect the working capital requirements. And you know what, the term size of the business is, it does talk about the scale of the operations. See, a concern carrying on the activities on a small scale needs a less working capital. This is what I told you, right? Bigger the business, bigger the capital. Smaller the business, smaller the capital. Again, with respect to risk also, bigger the capital, bigger the risk. Smaller the capital, smaller the risk, right? So here on the other hand, like a concern undertaking the activities on a large scale, they need to spend like large amount of working capital. Again, this is one of the important factors a financial manager has to determine. Well, moving to next one, you have a growth and expansion of a business. What does it talk about? See, of course the growth and expansion is going to have a great extent of the influence towards working capital requirement. See, when there is a growth and expansion in the business firm, of course the working capital needs of the firm will also increase. You are now just going out with your operations, everything with your existing business. If you think of expanding, if you think of like broadening your particular production aspect, you want to bring in one more branch in one of the areas, what is happening? You will have to now think about the funds what you have to raise in. When you are going to think about the capital outlay, increasing it, then you will have to of course think about the decision on working capital needs. As I said, bigger the business, the bigger the capital is what you require. It can be in terms of permanent or fixed, or it can be a variable as well. So always this factor of growth and expansion is going to affect the working capital requirements. Next up, you have a business cycle. See, during the prosperity, business is going to expand and it can decline also, right? See, just like two sides of a coin, you can't just go towards only the merits. You have both pros and cons. You will have to take up. It can be in personal life, professional life, right? Here, business expands and there can be a decline during the depression periods, and that there's a factor of inflation, deflation. There's lots of the movement in the prices, demand and supply, and all these are subjected to like uncontrollable factors. You can't control it. This is not just a specific risk where you can just tackle, right? So with the business cycle, you can come across all these kinds of things, and consequently like more working capital is required during the prosperity and less during the period of depression, isn't it? So this is very important as a financial manager, how you are going to manage. Fine. So the next step what to have is manufacturing cycle, or it is also called as production cycle. See, the length of the manufacturing process, it is going to influence the amount of working capital, isn't it? How you are going to carry out your process. Do you have multiple stages in order to complete the production of the product? Each stage, of course, you will have to take care. What is going to happen? The more the process you keep in your manufacturing, what is going to happen? It is going to directly have an impact on your working capital. I mean to say, your working capital is going to increase. Generally, the longer the manufacturing process, the higher will be the amount of the working capital requirements. You have to maintain your inventories, you will have to take care on your day-to-day operations very smoothly, right? Whereas on the other hand, the smaller the manufacturing process, lesser will be the requirement of a working capital. Again, it all depends upon the nature, it all depends upon the size. Do you think of growth, the growth and expansion? What is your business cycle at the time of recession or downturn of a company? How you are going to deal, how you are going to manage your working capital, the requirements, it plays a vital role. Fine. The next step what you have is the production policy. What does production policy talk about? See, each and every firm, whether it is a small firm, medium firm, medium, I'm telling it in form of a capital, or a large firms, of course the production policy is going to affect, because based upon their nature and size, they would have adopted certain policies. See here, a capital intensive industry, it requires more of fixed capital when than the less working capital, because here the equipments, plant and machineries are going to do the task of the organization. On the other hand, in case if your organization is a labor intensive industry, right, what is going to happen? You require less of fixed capital, but you need more of working capital, isn't it? And it is going to again influence the concept of working capital requirement, right? So the next step what you have is the credit policy. What is a credit policy is all about? See, this kind of particular the factor, it is going to affect the working capital requirements for sure. See, a firm which allows any kind of the liberal credits to its customers, it will have to require the large working capital than a firm which follows a the right credit policy. When you're going for more of credit selling, credit purchasing, what is going to happen with you, right? I think like large working capital is required with respect to the credit policy. So as a financial manager, he needs to always take up the right decision with respect to the credit policy. Next up, we have a dividend policy, where dividend, dividend is something, a profit, a portion of profit which is shared among the shareholders, preference shareholders plus the equity shareholders. Here, the dividend policy of a company is going to affect the working capital requirements. So, a company which follows a liberal dividend policy, it will require more of working capital than a company which follows a strict dividend policy. So, it is very important as a financial manager how ideally he is going to plan on all these kind of policies, that which is going to affect the working capital requirements of the organization.